city council members here. My guess is that Councilmember Lohman is on his way, fighting his way through traffic and probably the rain as well. Thanks to everybody who pre-registered. I had 3 names for pre-registered. I see Sally back there. Ed Epi? Ed here? Not see Ed. And then, glasses on. Jan Cooley? Jan? Okay. So we have those 3 who pre-registered. We'll see if Ed makes it a little bit later here as we get into this. Are there others who wish to speak tonight? Yes.
Cliff Carlson.
Cliff Carlson. All right. Anyone else? All right. So what we'll try and do in our half hour here, we'll break it down. We'll try and, even it out 6, 7, 8 minutes apiece and make sure everybody gets an opportunity to have a conversation. And if we'll move Mr. Deputy to the end, and if he gets here, we'll slot him in. Otherwise, we'll make sure that we have the conversation with everybody. So, Sally, good evening. Welcome.
Okay. Yes or no? Question. Applicants and staff report request for council action for 8201 Park Avenue dated March 24th, 2011. State hours of operation from 7 a.m. to 10 p.m. And then second question. Yes or no? Within the first year of the building was occupied, did the city see tangible and verifiable evidence that the building was being used after 10 p.m. and included various hours through the night?
I had no idea.
That being 11 years ago now, I think we would have to check back in meeting minutes and the recollection of staff and so on. There's Dwayne.
Mark Regard should remember.
I would assume he might have an idea, but I don't know if you remember specifically. Glenn, do you want to chime in? Yeah, why don't you come on up here, please?
There's a mic here, Glenn. You can sit over here or over there, whatever you want.
Yeah. And I'm not going to ask you to remember something 11 years ago, last month, but your general recollection, if not, we can always get back to you, Sally, with specific answers after reviewing information that we do have.
Yeah, so I'm sorry, hours?
The hours that they proposed. Do you recall the hours that they proposed?
I do not.
Okay, so, I mean, obviously, I've read the staff report and I've got the minutes and stuff. So of course, I'm telling you, but it's something you'll follow up on. So
if you read it, Sally, did it say that?
Yes.
I mean, what are the answers to your questions that you're trying to get at here?
Yes, they did. They proposed a use that did not start before 7 and did not go past 10 o'clock.
Okay.
And so when they started using it, so the second part of it, was there tangible and verifiable evidence within that first year? Yes, right away. They had classes that went to 11 and stayed later than 11. And if you recall, there was basketball, 2 o'clock in the morning. So, especially for people new to the council, to not understand what's going on in the neighborhood, that last week when I asked you the question and you said if there was tangible and verifiable evidence, it would be addressed. And there was, I mean, document after document, specifically recalling the sheet where it says class goes to 11 p.m. And then when we called into for instance, the parking lot for years, ever since I've lived there, someone's in the parking lot, someone call the police. I'm like, oh, sure, I'll call. So I call and say, yeah, people are parked in the parking lot. City addressed it the first night, and then after that, they didn't. So we had a parking lot being used through the night against city code, against, a sign that said parks closed, and then used through the night. And again, that's tangible and verifiable evidence. And, as you guys all recall, when you were looking at 71 American Boulevard, I'm asking you guys to get more information. I mean, we've been through it in our neighborhood where you didn't get all the information, and it's not on the city. I mean, if they say they're going to use the building from 7 a.m. to 10 p.m., no one would go, are you going to use it at midnight? I mean, you wouldn't. That is the hours they said. And then as a council and as planning commission, planning staff and the planning commission, they spend their time going, okay, how is that injurious to the neighborhood from 7 a.m. to 10 p.m.? Is it injurious to the neighborhood from 7 a.m. to 10 p.m.? When will we see conflicts? What's the traffic like? At no time did the city say from 10 p.m. to 7 a.m. through the night, how is that injurious to the neighborhood? At no time did the city, and still the city hasn't said, how do we address a use through the night? You come in and you expect a person to be upfront. And again, they weren't upfront. And they said specifically, the data, they said that Ramadan would be from 9 p.m. to 10 p.m. Ramadan is not from 9 p.m. to 10 p.m. It has never been from 9 p.m. to 10.
I don't know if they said that. Let me just,
The staff report, it's specifically in the staff report, and your staff will, you'll get this.
so you
Now-
asked about verifiable instances. And yes, there have been verifiable instances of different things, whether it's trash overflowing or the lights on or whatever. And my recollection is when we got those verifiable instances of not complying with the conditional use permit, we contacted them, they corrected it, and we moved on. I think in your mind, the assumption is if they do this once, well, then take away the conditional use permit and they're done.
It's to
And-
address it. It's being used through the night. Has the neighborhood ever had the city address whether that's injurious? Has the city ever? You recently had a discussion about the car wash and neighbors saying, wait a minute, how is that going to affect us? This car wash is going to 10 p.m. We put kids to bed before 10 p.m. You listened to all that. You didn't listen to the neighborhood say how we would be affected by a use after 10 p.m. until 7 a.m. in the morning. Never. You guys have never sat down and said, is this injurious? Does it fit our city?
And I believe, Sally, I think the comparison that was made was, yes, during Ramadan, yes, they went late, and I think that was understood. But I also think,
Was it understood? Understood that they had said they were going to do it, or
understood that it happened.
that it happened?
And I think the comparison was made that much like midnight mass on Christmas Eve or the Easter vigil over the Easter season that go well past the regular hours of operation, that occasionally a place of worship is outside that window of typical time that would be expected.
Well,
right?
for instance, the church that's at Valley View Middle School, would you have expected them to tell you that they have a midnight mass? Did you guys in your mind, are you envisioning that building is going to be used in the middle of the night, having a midnight mass?
I don't think I'm surprised to see a midnight mass.
My point is that they don't get a pass, that religion doesn't supersede city code.
It's not.
And so when they are in front of the city council, they're supposed to be accurate and not informing the council what their intended use was so that they could address, you at no time thought they're going to use it through the night, so nobody asked the question through the night. That is their obligation to tell you how they plan to use it. And they didn't. And the city, when the city finds out, they don't bring them back in and go, okay, that's your intended use? Well, new conditional use permit, bring.
Understand your point.
Can I
Yeah,
ask a
please.
question?
Yeah, please.
Follow up for staff first.
Sure.
I think it would be interesting to know, Mayor, to your point, when, in the past, I'm sure there have been churches that have moved in the city of Bloomington and whether it's through a conditional use permit or some other sort of land use change had to seek approval from the city. And I don't know if any of them have midnight masses or, like my church has an 11 o'clock Christmas Eve service and that sort of thing. But I think it'd be helpful to know if there are similar scenarios around town. I would suspect there are. And then Sally, the question I have for you, so you raised an example from something that happened a decade ago. None of us, with the exception of the mayor, were on the city council.
Right.
at that time. Did you raise this issue with the city council at that time?
Yeah, definitely. Yeah, and then
What was the response from the city?
first, so I don't forget the point is, your comment about comparing it with other places of assembly. One thing that I have noticed is, you know, people misunderstanding that uses are grandfathered in. So back then, many churches are settled. And so they didn't have the same questions that you have later. You have it later when you go, wait a minute, that's too much traffic. What are we going to do? Okay, we're going to limit it to this. We're going to tell, you know, so comparing it to other churches isn't a good comparison unless you're comparing it to something that was passed around the same time. And things that were being passed around at the same time was Resurrection Power Church on American Boulevard, and they were specifically asked about those late night hours. So again, you comparing it to something like one of our churches that have been there years ago, it wouldn't be a fair comparison. You can't say because they get to do it, they get to do it. It's like, no, we changed our rules. You know, we have to follow the city code. Each building has rules according to the city code at that time. You know, unless the city changed something and it applied to everyone equally, the change did. But you get a building, for instance,
Sally, I'm gonna have to cut you off here. I want to
Okay.
make sure we have time for everybody else. I
Okay.
appreciate the points you've made and the
Okay.
discussion back and forth. And I think, I mean,
okay,
One of the
Please.
things I'd
Yeah.
like to propose, if I may,
Please.
Mr. Mayor, is that, so Ramadan just ended. We know that there will be another Ramadan because it happens every year. Okay, we should understand this and do work now to make sure that we can accommodate everyone as we need to now, as opposed to waiting for this to be something that happens and then we wonder what to do about it. We have an opportunity, a year, in fact, to figure out how to make the accommodations needed and make sure that they can have their place of worship and assembly in a meaningful way without impacting their ability to assemble, right? And at the same time, make sure that the neighborhood is comfortable, ready to go, has a clear understanding of what's going to happen during the month, et cetera, et cetera. I think that's reasonable.
it is, and
Clear on that.
it is, and it's been happening for a decade.
Yeah.
Between our co-ed group, between the Bloomington Police, between community outreach. I mean, it's been happening.
Yeah.
So it has been happening.
Okay.
So I'm sorry, Sally, but we can move on. Thank you much. Jan,
Yes.
good evening. Can you come up here so we can get you on the microphone if you could, please?
And Mr. Mayor, while Ms. Cooley is making her way up, I'm going to check in with someone who's called in. We had Linda Lang call.
Okay.
I just want to make sure that this is.
Good evening, Jan. Welcome.
Yeah, all my paperwork is there.
Ms. Cooley, can you hang on one?
Okay.
Hang on 1 second.
10 seconds. Ms. Lang, is that you on the phone?
Certainly is. I'm not planning on speaking, but I am listening. It's interesting. Thank you.
Okay, you had raised your hand. I just wanted to check in. Thank you for clarifying. We're going to continue here.
Thanks for checking on that, Matt. I'm sorry. Thanks for waiting.
That's fine.
Go ahead.
We built a Wisconsin log home and all of that. And, you know, we used to have people, painters, and everything was fine. And going back, I had called Sella and they came and it was 2019, nothing got done. And this went on and on. And finally, when they came back, like I said, I have pictures. This is the finished job on my logs. They power washed and this is what they left. And they sprayed some stain on it. This is my house up on the hill. Meanwhile, I have to pay them $7,000 because they forged my name on a $16,000. Duke Johnson knows everything. Every time something happened, I'd come and talk to him, and he was very understanding. So I've already gone through, what was that deposition?
3 hours.
3 hours, yeah. And this Mr. Vic, their building is down the frontage road, Helmut and Johnson. And I know this sounds crazy, but I think he got great pleasure of me sitting there and asking 3 hours of a deposition. And my brother made a copy of it, and there's things, well, Sella came out and he refused to sign the contract. They mailed everything. So I went through all that and he sat there. I've been tormented. So now I gotta pay him 7,000 because they wanted the full 16,000. And my lawyers, I have the paperwork, what I signed and what they forged.
So you've come to a settlement with Sella, is that what I understand, or?
I had to.
Yeah, we did come to a settlement with them.
You come up here so we can pick.
Come on up here, please. Just make sure we get you on the.
Do you mind passing the pictures?
Yeah,
Janet, Mike.
yeah.
Good to meet you, Mike.
We did come to a settlement because they had taken Jan to court. So we went to an arbitration and we did come to a settlement. One of the things that, Sella came in 2019, took out permits, which expired. Then came back in 2020 and started doing work. Never did start the permits. So that was one thing. They were supposed to do things. She gave specific instructions. They can't power wash. You can't spray the stain on the logs. It has to be brushed. It has to be worked in. They didn't listen to any of that. There has to be specific instructions on how to walk on they have a metal roof. That wasn't followed, and now the metal roof is all dented because they didn't follow through on any of that. The lawsuit was for 32,000 and we did get it down, but, we still have all the damage on the house, so.
So you said you worked with Duke Johnson throughout the process? You have.
And he's been very kind. And, when he saw the damage, he said, oh, get a lawyer. And, I've got the first check I sent to Sella. That was for $5,000. And it's just been, they sent this mark out and he was for 76,890. He was trying to get a new roof on me purposely. And I said, I don't need a new roof. So all of this, I've just been verbally abused and it's really hard. And I have this one contract for 6,849. And that's what I sent. It says the third down, so I sent them $5,000. And then the next contract, like I said, I can hardly look at the stuff anymore, was for 6,000 something. Well, they forged my name on that. And I have a copy. I know what my signature looks like. And so
One of the things that, to let you know how Sella operates, for 2.5 years, she had 2 signs of Sella's in her garage, which she wanted to get back to them. So I wanted to bring them over to Sella's office. Their attorneys told our attorney, just throw them away. So we threw them away. And right after that, they wanted to bill her for them.
I'm very sorry this has happened to you. I mean, this sounds
it's my metal roof.
a nightmare, and I'm sorry about that. I really am.
It's more than a nightmare. No, they came in and put some putty on, some of the wood, white putty. I mean, it just stands out like you wouldn't believe it. It's just.
I'm glad to hear that Duke did well by you, or at least it's helpful. But from a city perspective, I'm glad you were able to negotiate a settlement that is less than the full amount owed, especially with the issues that you had. But from a city perspective, I don't know that we can intervene in any other way here.
I mean, this was my hot water pipe. And I don't know if you can see the light line down here. They couldn't even paint around that.
They painted up and down. Great.
Yeah, it's just, and they dented.
Sorry, I am, and
No,
I don't know. what more we can say or do here other.
I mean, I don't know if people are calling up to say, how do this people do? And, I mean, it's just.
I'm calling them hella.
Yeah.
Appropriate.
Mayor, can I?
Please, and we've got an expert here.
Don't oversell me. Have you talked to the Department of Labor and Industry about your concerns?
Yeah, so from Keith Ellison to all of that, and I have got an order, I can't contact them anymore.
Yeah, that was part of the settlement. And
I have all the paperwork, yeah.
now we have to be careful. So when this all first started, she went through that and.
Does the city do any work with them, Mr. Mayor?
I don't know if the city works with Sella at all. I'm not.
I don't recall any work that we've done with Stella.
Recall.
Could we get some more information just on the permit question there? That if they were operating under an expired permit, that may be something that the city could take action and look into.
I have the permit here.
Okay. And I think we can check in with Duke and
That's a good idea.
exactly what happened there.
I don't mean to cut you off. I want
It's never renewed it.
Yep.
In plain and simple. They just never.
to make sure that we get to Cliff here. But again, I'm sorry that this happened and
I just want to
Incredible.
make sure people in Bloomington do not call them. And this sounds goofy. I used to have little nightmares, this little car pulled up and these clowns jumped out with machine guns.
Oh, geez.
Sell a car, you mean?
It was a clown car. Yeah, so I've been through a lot of stress. The only thing they got right is this, the paint sickens. Because I had the little can. But I mean, and then they were trying to tell me that my rods were bad on the back deck. There's nothing. I mean, they're fine. So,
well,
I've just got a comment.
yes.
I had a bad issue with Stella too. So
there you go.
they're kind of a rotten company.
Yeah, and their office is right down the block from me.
You live by me.
Their attorney is, so, yeah.
Thanks for coming in
Thank
tonight.
you.
Sam.
Thank you.
Okay,
Sorry,
Thank
this
you for
happened.
listening.
Yeah,
I know, but
Please sign in if you haven't done so.
I did too.
Thank you.
Thank you both.
Yeah.
The good news is that now this is part of the public comment here
okay.
that you've held.
Thank you.
Your pain.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor.
Thank you. Thanks for being here tonight.
Thank you, everybody.
You're welcome.
Cliff, what's on your mind this evening?
I just wanted to hope you can get a little bit more with
Have a seat. Get comfortable.
solar heat.
With solar heat?
Yeah.
Okay.
I mean, solar panels, solar electricity, because I know you're gonna approve or disapprove a car wash on 98th fairly soon.
Mhm.
And I think you should just ask them, you'll be more likely to approve it if you put in some solar panels. Because, Minneapolis put in all these, North High School put in big solar, whatever you call it, garden or whatever.
Mhm.
And I think we should be doing that more too. And even when you build that ramp by the water park,
Mhm.
good place for it. But that's one of my issues. The other is I've got on this recycling, compost recycling thing.
Organics recycling.
It's not working in my neighborhood.
Really?
No. I live on 80th and Half Street, and we're kind of a little neighborhood in there between Fremont and Aldrich. And there's only 3 people that have buckets out there. And I'm one of them.
You're one of them. Good work. Thank you.
And I've asked most of my neighbors if they want to just throw it in my bucket, fine, but they don't want to do it. And we only throw in 2 bags a week. That isn't worth picking up. 2 little bags a week.
But there's 2 of us in my house and we throw in two and a half bags a week.
Yeah,
And we're finding more and more stuff that we're throwing away now too, or including in the organics. We're just kind of getting our way into it. I appreciate your leadership in the neighborhood. Good job, and keep working them, because I think the last I heard, I think the city was at 22% participation.
okay.
In my neighborhood, I think it's higher than that. We've got a lot of folks in my neighborhood.
I wouldn't mind if it could save the city a little bit of money. I go around in our neighborhood and pick up the 3 houses, take them over to the apartments or something.
Yeah.
But, you know, I think that would be a better option than having a truck come around for 6 little bags maybe.
We've got a sustainability commission member here.
Yeah. What I would say is, you know, I think you got to start somewhere, right?
Right.
And, you know, my neighbor is 50% now, you know, half the cul-de-sac.
Really?
Yep, we're at 50%, and I think eventually we'll get up to 80%. And one of the things that we looked at when we tried to do this is, how do we reduce the amount of trash that you're putting in there? So the way that the perspective that I would look at this at is, you know, the big trash landfill down in Burnsville.
Right.
Every bag or 2 that we can reduce putting in our trash that may end up down there at that landfill is going to make that mountain of trash that they're trying to put up there a lot less.
Yeah.
I appreciate the fact that you have gone in and put those 2 in there. And I also appreciate the fact that you're going out and asking your neighbors to do that as well. But we have to kind of start small. That's what we did in the city with recycling many years ago. You were on council when we did that. But it all starts in a small.
Yes, what I'm thinking is that I don't like to have $50 a month or whatever it is for the cost.
Oh, it's not $50 a month. It's five.
Just adding them all up.
All over the 50.
It's close to $50 if you add your trash and your yard and it does.
Oh, okay. I thought,
But not just for organic.
Organics is $5.50.
$5.50, yeah.
Yeah.
okay.
Yep.
But it's just another tax as far as I'm concerned that's not being, you know, in my neighborhood, it's not being used very
The
well.
other piece that I would, sorry, I don't mean to interrupt you. The other piece that I would add is that this is a service that the county is basically requiring cities to provide. This was not a decision
Oh, okay.
just made by ourselves to say, we're going to do this. The county set forward a requirement basically that says cities of a certain size have to provide this service.
Okay.
And then people were asking, well, why not just charge only the people who are using it instead of charging the entire city? And I think we went into it thinking, if we're going to do something like this, we're going to do it so it succeeds. But if we only charge the people who are using it, the cost per person goes much higher. And if the cost goes much higher, fewer people use it, and then we don't succeed, basically. So this is just one way that we're trying to tackle this issue.
So people in my neighborhood recycle in their backyards, you know, they've got
I compost.
piles.
That's the main reason they're not using it.
But you can't throw a pizza box in the compost pile. You can't throw a pizza box in the compost pile. You can't throw your chicken bones in the compost pile. You can put that into the organics recycling.
Okay.
Yeah.
Well, there's a few things that we put in there, but a lot of our food and stuff, we throw out in the backyard for the squirrels.
Well, yeah.
They eat it all up.
Yeah, I did that, and I've got about 100 rabbits in the backyard. So I learned that lesson.
Hey, Cliff, this came out this past week to.
Yep, it did.
residents. And, you know, I think this was part of the Hennepin County commitment to Bloomington and other cities that say, hey, if we're going to force you to do this, we're going to help you get the word out. And so I don't know if we'll see an uptick in the utilization that now that this is in everybody's inboxes and stuff, you know, mailboxes. But there is a really great, you know, section on organics recycling in here. It might be a tool that you can use to have that conversation with your neighbors again. I don't live that far from you. I'll come down and maybe we can walk the neighborhood together. I'd love to do that anyway. Because I think to the point being made here, there's stuff that, you know, that they might be throwing in the trash today that could go in those organics bins if they really understood it. So maybe it's just about that education. But this was a really nice piece. I was going to make mention of it at the end of our public meeting today. Just came out this past week. So it might be a way to move people forward a little bit more.
Okay.
Yeah.
Sounds good. Okay, well, thank you.
You're right on time. Look at you. Your timing is perfect.
On the
What's that?
solar thing, I know that there's at least a couple of us on this council who would love to ask that every single chance we get, every time we do new development here, that we ask for sustainability.
That's good.
Solar stuff. So you'll
Because-
see that coming, I'm sure.
I've never heard it asked once.
Oh, really? No, yeah, we do have that discussion and Lona brings it up. Absolutely. And so does
Okay,
There's
Wayne.
$5 million in TIF set aside specifically on the water park for sustainability initiatives. We'll see what they turn up and what they mean, but we did do that to make sure that, that they had to do something, hopefully.
Yep.
okay, because
You're good.
I don't want to.
Good. Thank you for coming in, Cliff.
Yep.
Appreciate it.
Good to see you.
Talk to you.
You write your
I
name.
would like to make a motion to adjourn tonight's listening session. We got a motion and a second to adjourn tonight's listening session and head downstairs. All in favor?
I.
Motion carries 7-0. See you downstairs. Good job.